Hi, everyone. Welcome to Throughline Thursday. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for tuning in and hope you're having a happy Thursday. Our Throughline theme today is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Today, our guest is Dhwani Soni. She was a panelist on the future of UX design. She's currently VP of Product and User Experience of design at 8 by 8. She is responsible for leading strategy, vision, and user experience for the company's integrated cloud communications, collaboration, and contact center solutions. Prior to 8 by 8, Dhwani successfully built and led the design team at Mobile Iron, which had a significant impact on the overall customer and user experience through a strong focus on research led design and end to end customer experience. Her passion to build strong consumer experience is based on end user trust, privacy, striving for enhanced efficiency, increased social collaboration, and driving accelerated product engagement. She is passionate about leadership and has been an active mentor and coach for inspiring and supporting her fellow women in technology and design. Hi, Twani.
Hi Neha, how are you?
We are good here. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me today.
Welcome, Twani, to Throughline. I'm so excited to have you on. We have so much in common.
I hear you. I'm equally excited. I'm thankful for Baywan to having me here today.
You're welcome. Thank you again. Let's dive right in. Tell
Sure.
us where you began your career and how you got into design. I know that's
Sure.
quite a story.
I know. I mean, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it all short and everything. So I come from a family of engineers and teachers. The expectation was always with me to kind of get into engineering. I was always good at science, math, computers, but I never really saw myself in like a 9 to 5 job doing behind the desk. I wanted to travel the world. There was an urge to create, build, explore, get inspired, and provide back in some way to the community. And I didn't know what that would be at that time. I know my dad always saw me from an engineering streak standpoint, and but my mom always felt I had a creative streak, and I think she had one too. So she kind of saw that in me, and then she suggested a balance of science and art in architecture, and I it really appealed to me. So I honestly I started in architecture. And design at that time was, it's an upcoming field and it was very, very new. Nobody knew how to navigate. And I mean, Indian parents, like they want to guide the kids, they want to make sure that they can control, not control, but actually provide back from the best of knowledge that they can. So it was a little scary for my parents, but I think it was a journey that kind of everybody has had who's come into design. For me, it was great to start with architecture, and then within a year, I switched to fashion design. And then from there on, I mean, the world has mostly looked up with a few hurdles and rocks along the way, but it's been kind of great.
That's amazing. And I hear you about, Indian parents, and my father was an engineer, mother a teacher, so very similar
Wow, we
lived
did not talk
experience.
about that.
Yeah. Hearing your story, you've been bold and risky, and I know that about you, girl. Like I just love that energy. You stood up for yourself. Can you share a story about a time that shaped you in your career, shaped you in terms of who you are?
Sure. Well, there are, a lot of small stories, and I think we kind of share this as well. We spoke about this, there's a lot of stories that kind of shape my perspective to take a stand for myself, for like small instances, like, dropping resumes, going door to door, like literally cold calling people, like, hey, I'm here, look at me, hey, reaching out for higher positions and just not limiting yourself. Like these are simple, nimble examples that kind of I felt that I took to believing in myself. I knew that, I would work hard towards building my worth, then knowing my worth, and then knowing that I'm worthy of an opportunity, and then not being scared to kind of reach out. And I never settled for, accepting how the world sees me. I wanted to push further, and I would just go and try and reach out. And then there was like a story that you asked, like, there was actually one story very early on, you're in early 20s, and there are so many things that kind of define you, and one of those that kind of pushed me out of my comfort was like absolutely life changing. So very early in my career, I would say it was one of the earlier jobs. I had a very bully boss. I mean, and bully in all senses, like from emotions, from physique, and in all senses you can say. And everybody was kind of scared of him at work. And think of him like a toddler who really couldn't keep his emotions in check and would, throw every time he would throw a tantrum, things would not go like something didn't go his way. There was generally a lack of empathy for the work hours, flexibility to manage your work and life and job. I mean, there were literally days that I would not see my parents. I mean, I would be sleeping under the tables, getting up, doing my thing at the work. It was terrible, but it was we just did it. And then one day I just decided to take a stand for myself. I decided to resign without another job in hand, and I did. I resigned, and it was one of those experiences that like literally shook me to my core. I literally like when I was, and it wasn't the first time I resigned with this person. I resigned, then he said, "No, no, stick around for another 10 days. We've got this event. We need to do this." I'm like, "Okay, okay, whatever you need. I'm just giving you a heads up." And then when I actually went and had that discussion, I stepped out and I was shaking. I was literally shaking because it did not go well. He knew it was a resignation conversation, but
Yeah.
it didn't go well. But note what I did. Like I didn't let fear hold me back. I put my mental and physical health on priority. I believe that mutual respect is extremely important in any work relationship and decided to take a stand for it.
Yeah.
And what happened, like it was fearful to leave a job early on and not have another job in hand. The market wasn't really looking up, but I landed a new job in like next 9 days. And that one decision actually shaped the rest of my career in many different ways, and we can get into it.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I'm trying to say here is like believe in yourself, take a stand, even if it means facing your worst fears.
Yeah, absolutely. And as women, we self-objectify, we bite our tongues. We can be aggressive because aggressiveness or being angry, it's like, conforms to masculinity and confounds femininity. But yeah, I mean, that's just a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. It takes a lot of courage.
It
Um,
does. You're absolutely right. It is very courageous, and just take that step. Like you would believe that, you would agree with that. Like taking that one step towards courage, it shapes the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah, it's an example you're setting.
Yeah.
Now, you've said no matter how beaten down you are, it's extremely important to show up and believe in yourself. I want to hear more. What do you mean by showing up?
Well, showing up like literally means showing up, making an appearance. I mean, let's take a step back. Like you are on that invite, you have been invited to a meeting because somebody in that group feels your opinion matters, right? And then believing in yourself, even if you do not do your homework, you don't know what to contribute, but sometimes just showing up and being a fly on the wall to learn more so you can contribute better. So showing up, persistence, even at your worst, is one of the best ethics I think I believe in life.
Yeah,
And then,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, no, I mean, I was just saying that, and there will be times that, you're stepping out of your comfort zone and yet you need to show up, even if with the fear of unknown or going down a path which is absolutely uncharted, you don't know how to navigate that, but just stay persistent. And at that point, imposter syndrome, I don't know if a lot of people might know, but or not know, is at this point is inevitable. And I have to say that it's not very specific to women. Men go through that too. The way to kind of get at it is like first accept that okay, I am going through this, and then um, when you go through it, you have to accept that you are going through a change, something that you've never done before. The only way is to kind of educate yourself, invest in yourself, and then keep charting ahead. And growth comes from the most uncomfortable places.
Mhm.
And again, like I said, only way is to keep showing up, keep going at it. So just as an example, it's very, I don't know, I'm oversharing now, but it's okay. So when I was moving up the ladder from, IC to a manager position, I mean, there were so many things to learn. Like, it's a very different gamut of activities. You're responsible for not just yourself, you're responsible for your function, you're responsible for the team. And every day I would just feel that I'm not doing enough. And, somebody's just going to realize that I'm not worthy of the role or of the position. And there are a few ways you can approach this. You can approach this as a fear that limits you, or an opportunity like to humbly learn and just keep charging ahead. When you stop fearing failure, you really make yourself open to new learnings. And I think that's one of the biggest gifts that you've given yourself as an individual.
Yeah, I agree with it 100%. It's just an outcome failure. And also like I don't know, when I started working, it was like, I stopped correcting people for mispronouncing my name. I felt like I couldn't be authentic. And then as I
Yeah,
grew, it was like, no, I need to show up as my true, whole, authentic self. And that's how other girls
yeah.
or other people around me can follow suit. So, I mean, it's so important what you said, to show up as who you are and being true to yourself. Um, I want to ask you, you've been a tough negotiator throughout your career. You've talked about the importance of deaf negotiations. What advice do you have for others?
Oh, there's so much to talk about negotiation. It's a very you learn over time, and it was one of the tough ones that I had to navigate as well. Okay, so first, it's important to recognize that negotiation is a two-way street. It has to be beneficial for both the parties. It essentially means meeting the other party kind of midway. And like everything else, you need to do your homework before you're negotiating. You need to work on the terms that you need, but also be cognizant of, is there a proposal that benefits the other party, right? So you're meeting both ways. Um, and then it's like, okay, what can you negotiate? Everything, money, position, title, mental health, growth, work-life balance, um, leaves, maternity leaves, hybrid work, everything is up for negotiation, right? I would say think big. Think what matters to you, to your life, to your family, wherever you are in your place in life at that point. And what you need to know is that what will make you show your best self at work, right? So negotiate on those things. And then, as a manager, there are multiple times you can negotiate things, right? So I've always encouraged like two-way conversations and believe to be transparent about being investing in my growth, in my team's growth, right? So during performance reviews, I've consistently, sorry, given opportunities to the team to consider, sponsorship or coaching or mentorship outside of the company. Work-life balance opportunity. There are people who are taking courses, the people who want to work remote, who do not want to invest in 2 hours of traffic time. People want extra vacation days to spend time with family. There are families who go back to, Asia or Israel, to kind of meet their parents they've not seen for a year long. So there is always something you can work on that makes sense, that brings a happier you back to work. So think through those things. And then specific to, salary. Number one, do your research. Don't come up with a number that you just pull out of your hat. Okay. Do your research, know what's going on in the market. Don't come across like, somebody who's not done it, right? And then never settle for the first offer. The party knows it's a negotiation you're going into. You don't need to give your first offer forward too. Know your worth, know your homework, then ask for it. Again, be kind and be nice. Don't be a douche when you're asking for it.
Yeah.
Tell the other person why you are doing this. What do you bring to the table, so they can understand where you're coming from, and they can, if what you're asking may not be the best, they
Yeah.
can curate an offer that works in both favors. So consider the person in front of you as a smart individual who wants to work with you in your favor and get you on board. And the last thing I would talk about in negotiation is, stop thinking about it as it's a dirty word. It's not. Think of it as a visual setting across the table with an equal power stakeholders to reach a consensus that works for both parties. That's how, just take it very, very objectively and tactfully. And I'm sure that you'll need to do some skills and learning, read about it, but it can get really easy over time.
Yeah. And I mean, as women, we kind of underestimate ourselves, right? And that's why we don't go in, and negotiate. So, yeah,
I
thank
completely agree. And never think of that. Never restrict yourself just because of women. Somebody would be thinking of you that way. Don't limit yourself. You are in equal power position. So go ahead, know what you want, and ask for it.
Absolutely. Women are not making it to the top. What are some examples of how you invested in yourself to be a leader you want to be and where you're at?
Yeah, yeah. So I think for me, I'm always learning. I'm learning from my managers, good and bad, and the ugly. I want to make sure I know things that matter to my employees, what my team cares about, what are the ethics that I want to stand for as a leader, right? And then know yourself, like you mentioned there, being authentic to yourself is extremely important. You want to know where you are coming from, how you want to give back to the company, to the society, to your team, and you really cannot navigate the uncomfortable or the tough situations if you're not true to yourself. The other thing I would say is, uh, ask and take feedback very, very graciously. It really keeps you honest, keeps you humble, and keeps you growing. Have different groups. There could be few mentors that you have. There could be few. I call it like you have your work tribe, that people you can connect with, you can talk to. You also get to know across the company what's going on, and they're not in a position to give or owe something to you, so you can really have a meaningful conversation. There will be tough times that you will not know how to navigate, and they will actually bring a perspective. And I'm really thankful to have a, a group of people that I can reach out to anytime. And they really don't need to be mentors. You don't need to call them, buddies, but they're really people who we care about each other and we want to support each other. And that really, really helps out. So keep open that feedback loop, give and take, and be very gracious about it. Um, then I've had this very recently. I had this conversation with a small group of people, and I am a strong believer about what environment you thrive in. I've had jobs with big companies, small companies, figuring out that balance of where you thrive versus you survive in, what size of the company it is, what industry it is. It connects to a lot about the impact that you made. If you are a person who goes by the amount of impact you want to see go out, sometimes smaller companies are better. Better. Again, I could be corrected. Different people may think differently, but finding that balance, to each their own. If a big company helps you do that and makes you thrive, absolutely awesome. But all I'm saying is, try it out, try different sizes. You will figure out where you thrive versus surviving. And I do want to take a moment to, talk about mentorship. And I think that is extremely important. And it's been very, very important. And I'm very, very grateful to people who have taken the time and invested in me in my career. And not many people consciously do that. So once I knew what I wanted for myself, for my team, for my leadership style, um, what I wanted my next best version to look like, I took a very tactical approach, and I decided to invest in skills like figure out my strengths, play to them, invest in my growth areas. I reached out again to people, this time to people for mentorship. I purposely reached out to people that I admired professionally, and to the point that, there were people I was absolutely intimidated by their persona, by their personalities at work. And I'm like, I want to be that. I want
Yeah.
to know how they do that. And I think one of my mentors might still be listening. She pinged me this morning, and I'm like, thank you so much. I owe a bunch of it to you. And
Wow.
I just admired what they had built for themselves, and I wanted to learn how they do it. And finding right mentors at the right time of your career, of your life, is extremely important. Different stages in life that you're navigating, uh, different challenges are there, different growth areas. Your growth areas change. You need champions, you need advocates, you need mentors to help you guide through those uncomfortable situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is so important and so key. Thanks for sharing that. So find your tribe at work, know where you thrive. That is so important. Um, you are an inspiration to a lot of women of color in leadership. You're an inspiration to me. What would your advice be to women who are interested in leveling up into leadership and getting a seat at the table?
Inspiration is a big, heavy duty word. I'm not sure I'm ready to take that. But I would say a few things, One, really have a goal, know where you want to go, have a destination, and then actually put a plan in place. Otherwise, it's just ideas. You're not really serious about it, right? invest in mentorship, growth areas, take courses, always keep learning. And I've heard it from like so many women, women I admire, women who have been on boards, like you have to keep investing in yourself. Every time you do it, it just keeps you humble and it takes you a long way. Just before the session, Neha, you were talking to me about like if there's a trend of reverse mentorship, right? I am absolutely delighted to learn from the younger tribe these days. Like,
Absolutely.
what is FOMO? What is JOMO? Like, tell me how you guys work. I'm totally on board with it. Teach me. It's
Yeah.
it's it's always great to give and take, and it takes you a long way, right? And then consciously, if you're serious about leadership, consciously building your leadership style is extremely important. It's an extension of you.
Yeah.
It should come really, really naturally to you, and you have to consciously take an effort to build that. If you want your team to be happy with you, if you want your business to thrive, if you want cross-functional teams to kind of look up to you, because that's where you're not leading the team, but what people talk about you when you're not in the room is
Yeah.
extremely important, right? So
Yeah.
that leadership style needs to be invested in.
Yeah.
And then I know you mentioned for me a woman of color and this just channel, and I always get very uncomfortable because I've never put myself into one of those boxes somehow. I don't know. It's never happened to me, but I know that people have reached out and people have mentioned that to me. So I do appreciate what I hear, and I'm very humbled by it. But what I will say is that, don't let the crutch of color, gender, orientation, any kind of limitation hold you back. You are in that job because you deserve it. You're good at it. Just drive from that. Do not let self-doubt creep in at all.
Yeah.
Consciously be aware of self-doubt and just don't don't let it hold you back.
Yeah.
And the last is, we spoke about fear. Just conquer it. I don't know what's the best way. Like for me, I stopped thinking about it, right? So what I think is like my approach is like the worst is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And if it happens, it's not the worst yet. And then if you want to control it, just have a plan B, C, D. That's how I approach it. Like if something fails, you have something else. If that fails, you have something else. If that fails, there's something. So definitely the worst is way in the back in the backlog. Let's say that. So
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. Just figure out a model to kind of approach it from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And like also I want to say, there's this perception that leadership is for super women. It's not just for super women, we're trying to be
Ugh.
role models to little girls. And there's just no right way to
And
be
boys.
exactly, and boys too, yes. And just like being true to yourself, there's just no right way to be a woman leader. It's
Yeah.
just reach out for that promotion, girl. And then also
Yes.
like, having a seat at the table is, I don't know, I want to get your perspective. Is it still hard? I mean, when you say, excuse me, I'm speaking, do people really give you that chance? Do you still feel like you're kind of, facing hurdles, or you've come that?
Um, I maybe I think there are two ways to look at it. Like every time you go in a new environment, you have to work your way to be accepted as influential. And I don't know if it is specific to just women, but yes, every time I get into a room, now I've consciously stopped thinking about it, but mostly it's a room full of men. And you know me, I will go just sit down. If I've done my homework, I'm going to speak up.
Yeah,
But again, the things that kind of take you a long way is that polish how you come across, how you
absolutely.
dress up, how you want to be taken, how you want to be noticed as a person of what's your brand like? What do you bring to the table? So people want to hear more from you. Like a CEO, a CMO, people would be willing to listen to you, value your opinion
Yeah.
when they know that you've done your homework and you show up with the right data, right metrics, right information, and they want to take your perspective, and that's why you're in the room. So it's gotten better because I know how to kind of approach it. But every time I go in a new environment, yes, there's something that I have to kind of work like, read the audience,
Devil
how
and
many do you know? Yes, yes, how many do you know outside of work? How many do you know? I mean, I'm talking about informal setting also, right? And in a formal setting, like if it's a it's a formal meeting, like, okay, how many have you aligned beforehand? And that is a very important point. Like, alignment is not going to happen in that meeting. Everybody should know what you're going to be presenting. That's a consensus meeting. Like, everybody okay, sign off in 5 minutes, good. So how you approach, you have to change that. You have to make sure that alignments across the table have happened before that one final meeting.
Yeah.
So I think I've gotten to figure out how it works better, and that's kind of
Yeah.
helped out, yeah.
And like how you mentioned, take that fear out of your head, be confident, don't think you're too junior, just go for it. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
you saying that you applied for jobs that were director level jobs, and you were kind of getting into the industry, so I felt like that was phenomenal. It was so bold.
No,
um,
and let me clarify. Just because I was applying for it doesn't mean I was getting it, but I was getting a conversation.
yeah,
I was getting a conversation with the recruiter to know what is needed for that so I could work to it.
absolutely.
I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna, all I wanted was a conversation, like, door to door. Hey, I'm here. Tell me more. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot too, just having that one conversation that like, okay, I need to take, invest more on this. I'll come back. Thank you. Thank you for your time. That kind of thing.
Yes, awesome. Well, what's the through line in your career? What has remained the same while everything else seems to have changed around you?
Uh, you know, I mean, in simple words, speak up, show up, work hard, work smart, and then just do it all over again.
Yeah.
Don't, I mean, you can't um, don't hold yourself back on judgment of like how others uh, put you in a box of like age, gender, skills, junior, senior. Don't let that hold you back. You know what's best for you, and only you can push yourself to the next level. All you got to do is believe in yourself, and then show up, be persistent, speak up, work hard, and work smart. Yeah.
Thank you for that. It was such a rich conversation. Your story is, story of an underdog, I feel, and so inspiring. I hope you all enjoyed it too. I had a great time. I have some comments here coming in.
Oh yeah, sure.
Kathy says, very good content. Anuj says, love the clarity of thought, Dhwani. Amit says, awesome content, super encouraging. We have a few questions. Anuj wants to ask you any recommendations on books to read on negotiating, leadership, or mentorship.
Hmm. Uh, there are a few books like I think Girls Don't Get Corner Office or something like that. I have to admit I'm bad at reading books. I'm better at watching videos and talking to people. But yes, what I can really talk about is mentorship, right? So I always believed in it, and I brought a lot of mentorship to my previous organization as the executive chair for this D&I group. So there is Mentium is an excellent organization. If you are actively interested, it's an expensive one. So think about, taking it back. Like I said, like, everything is up for negotiation. Take it back to your manager in your next performance review and see if the company is ready to sponsor that for you. So I would say look at that. There are definitely books that can help. I know I'm forgetting the names, but yes. I will write that back. I'm sorry, you caught me off guard, but yes.
Anuj, she will get back to you. I would say Anuj, Headway app is a really great app because I was picking up these books and not finishing them up. This app kind
Yes.
of gives you content from different sort of like different books and topics that you're interested in. It's like a paid app, but Anuj, if you're interested, it's like I just read like 30 minutes a day and it's just easier. Um, I have a question for you. I'm sorry, this just came to mind and I have to ask you. Who are your heroes and why did they
Oh,
inspire you? Like, why were they your heroes?
I think this isn't. I think a lot of people probably know about this, and I've written a lot about this. It has to be my mom, the way she's always been my first mentor. For some reason, she was a teacher. She would be the first
Mine
person I
too.
would wish a happy Teacher's Day. And the way she would be absolutely persistent at work, she would be sick, she would be still going in. And I mean, it's like dating myself back and cultural differences. Back in India, she would travel with like the DTC, the government transportation
Yeah,
buses,
I
and she would
remember.
take 2.5 hours drive. She would wake up at like God knows what 4:30, whatever hours to make lunches for us, do her job, come back, make sure lunches were ready for us, take her to tuitions and this and that. I mean, the persistence to make us successful.
Yeah,
I mean, I have to give it to her. And she's always like, she was a teacher. She came from very good education too. Then got into teaching, then she progressed and she's now at the Directorate of Education. So she's one of the best jobs in the Delhi education circuit. So I have to say, seeing her progress, I still go back to her for like, how would you navigate the situation? If
yeah.
if something fails, I would be in tears and I would be still calling my mom up, and not as a child. Like, what did I do wrong? And it's just so refreshing. And she is not like one of like, if even if you do wrong, you'll be like, no, baby, you're fine. She's not like that.
She'll
She's
give it to
tough.
you. Yeah,
You
she'll
just
tell you.
she'll just give it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same, same. But it's like, you know how they work so hard. There are role models. That's what we need
Yeah.
to do for our girls and boys. And I am in the same boat. Mom, teacher, like I'm like, can I marry you, mom? Like she's everything to me. She's the
I
best.
know, I know, I know. But then to your point, like may not be heroes, but I think as you build your peer group, you would find these small nuggets of niceness in different people that you start admiring. So it doesn't need to be a through and through hero. Like I know my friends like Maureen and Miriam and these guys like Vijay and these guys, they've always been there for me for small little things that I would need, and I would reach out to them, and they would just opened my eyes like, oh wow, you guys are amazing. You are like, I don't know how you do it, but you guys are amazing. So it's just been awesome that way.
Yeah, yeah. I have some very interesting questions that I want to get to. Um, LinkedIn user asks, how have you approached mentorship relationships so they don't feel like you're not asking too much, or they don't feel like you're asking not, or sorry, like asking for too much? I think that's what she means.
That's a very, very good question. So I would say that when I approached mentorships, they were all they were facilitated, formalized models. In a way, they were always from a position. The mentor was definitely from a senior position at that time, or even outside the setup. The setup was that they are voluntarily putting the time to invest in me. That's how it may have started off, okay? But then over time, like say my 6 month time limit with one of my mentors kind of wrapped up, and I really reached out, hey Miriam, would you be willing to, talk to me more, because I might have hurdles along the way. And she was like, absolutely. Right. So that was very fulfilling. And then the obligation is not to give back, but be available. I have another really awesome mentor that was a very formal, again, through Mentium, again, a 1 year mentorship relationship. And he approached me, and even during that time, he was navigating through some cultural work, professional things in India. And he would reach out and like, hey, do you have some legal advice on this front? Can you have contacts that I can reach out to? And I think it's a give and take in that way. You may not be giving advice, but there are different ways you can support him. Like, I'm like, why are you not on LinkedIn? Dude, everybody's on LinkedIn. Why are you not on LinkedIn? And he put up his LinkedIn profile. So it's different ways you can give back. But the other thing is like you can find solace in like, now I am available to the community to kind of, I'm happy to talk to you, be available if you have a question about mentorship, like this webinar, right? So I think that's how you give back, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's great. Another question, how did you learn to think of negotiation as a two-way street? That's a really good question.
That's a good one. I think it just happened as I was negotiating one of my salaries at a job. And as it started, I proposed something like really how negotiations happen back in India is very different. And I keep going back because a lot of my professional work was also in India. How it happens in United States is very different as well, right? So here you have to give what you think you're worth, or like what do you expect, not what you're making. So when you put forward, when you know your worth, you've done your homework, you can put forward a number. And from there on, they came back to me with like, how about a composition like this? How does full stock versus this like this? And I'm like, it doesn't work. And it was a to and fro street. And I'm like, that is pretty good. And then I have had, really, really awesome managers who have really believed in me and, have seen the potential. So having those nice, good managers, those good mentors to kind of, just give a nugget here and then, like, have you thought about that? I'm like, let me come back to you. Or that you don't need to answer yes or no at that point. Your answer just could be, I will get back to you.
That's you, yeah.
Every time you take that, you go back and you are thinking and then coming back to the table with your homework, and then you're getting into negotiations. So that's how I think I
Very good
started
tip.
approaching it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a great
You're
tip.
not obligated to answer at that time. Just know that.
Yeah.
No yes or no needed. Like even with a CEO setup, really good point, boss. I'm sorry I didn't think through it. I will come back to you.
That's you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very,
You're not
very.
wasting anybody's time then.
We have a comment from Prerna. Thank you, Prerna, for this comment. Great example of why female role models are vital and inspiration can start at home. This is so true. Thank
Hey,
you for that
thank you,
nugget.
Prerna.
Yeah. Um, Abigail wants to know what app. It's called Headway. It's HEADWAY. Super cool.
I'm
Um,
gonna check it out.
Thank you. It's great talking to you, Dhwani. I feel like I gained a friend. Thank you so much for
Oh,
coming.
absolutely.
Please keep in touch. Thank you for your valuable time and sharing your story with us and the audience on LinkedIn Live.
Absolutely. And I have to say thank you, Neha, for, just listening to all of it, helping curate this webinar. I hope it can reach out to many people. And thank you to Bay One to kind of taking this time and investing in me in this conversation between the two of us. So thank you so much. Absolutely love the conversation.
Thank you so much. Same here. Hope you all enjoyed it. See you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.